Would guidance from an expert help you to grow your business or career? Or do you seek inspiration for you or your kids? If so, welcome. Behind the Words TV gives you that one-on-one time with famous and emerging authors or content creators. They'll take you where you want to go. Behind the Words TV, right now. Does your life have too much chaos? Do you need an oasis, a place to go, a safe haven? If that's the case, then stick where you are, because this episode of the Behind the Words TV is for you. Hi, I'm host Paul Madsen and author of Men, Grieve, 2, Tools to Help Men Rebuild After the Death of a Loved One. And I'm excited about today's episode because I am here with Jennifer Ginn of the Divine Truth bookstore. Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Hey, great to have you. Great to see you. And tell us, Jennifer, what is the story on Divine Truth Christian Store?
It is a locally family-owned bookstore that was started by my grandfather and my dad.
Wonderful. And it's obviously in the Christian market. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. We are open for everyone, but yes, it focuses on your walk with Christ.
Wow. And this is some brand new store, or tell me a little bit of the history.
No, it's not new. We've been in the community. We are in September going to start our 40th year.
40th, that's 40.
40.
40.
Yes,
wow.
By the grace of God, many prayers and loyal customers that have kept us here.
Well, that's the real key, isn't it? The local and loyal customers. Tell me how you've achieved that.
Well, we are here to serve the community and people around the community. With military being here, we have people move away and come back, and so, or they'll call us and say, hey, my local Christian bookstore doesn't have this. Do you know this book I'm talking about? And we can mail things to other states, and we've even done other countries.
Wow, and has it always been in the same location where you are now?
It's been along the same 84th Street. We've been in 3 different buildings, okay. And we're at our location now, as my grandfather calls it, the Miracle on 84th Street.
I love it, a miracle on 84th Street. Well, and it is a bit of a miracle to have a bookstore in this day and age. I mean, so much is going on online. Tell me about your local ministry, how that works, what keeps you going.
Well, it's my grandfather and grandmother, it was their retirement money that started it. My grandfather worked for the world for 40 years. He wanted to work for God specifically for 40 years. So he and my grandmother wanted a place where people could come to Christ if they didn't know him, or to grow in their faith, to share their faith.
Wow, well, that's quite a story, a lot of history there. And lastly, what makes Divine Truth Christian Store unique? What is different about it? What is its ministry?
The ministry is we want people to have the heart of God, to walk after God and follow God, for it to be a place where they can come to get books, Bibles, gifts, but also to be treated like family. We have a lot of people that come in, we know them by name, and if they have prayer concerns or things they need to talk about, we're there for you, just like family.
Wonderful. Jennifer, a great tagline, a great place to leave it. If you're interested in more peace, more growth, a better walk with your spiritual guide, check out Divine Truth Christian Store. And Jennifer, again, thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, and welcome back to this episode of Behind the Words TV. I'm your host, Paul Madsen, and we are here to talk about more respite, less chaos, and a place to grow spiritually in your life. How? Well, that's with the Divine Truth Christian Bookstore and with Jennifer Ginn. Jennifer, welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, what business is the Divine Truth Christian Store in?
Well, it is a Christian ministry. We are focused on helping people come to their faith in Christ and also grow in their faith so they can share their faith, just to further their walk.
Well, that sounds almost more like a church than a bookstore.
Well, we are kind of like a church. We have people that come in that sometimes don't know what book or where to go, and so we direct them. Or we have people come in who don't know anything about God, that are searching, that want to know more. Or we've had people come in asking specifically for prayer. So we're a little bit of everything.
Wow, you actually do prayer with people sometimes if they want that?
Yes, we sure
Well,
do.
you are like a church then. You don't have necessarily the big worship services where people come in and at an organized time or anything like that. You do have events, which we'll talk about later.
Yes.
But it sounds to me like you're a real safe haven, a real place to go. Tell me more about that.
Well, my grandparents and my dad started the bookstore. It was my grandparents, Don and Mildred, that they used their retirement money. My grandfather had worked for the, as he called it, the world side, and he wanted to, after he retired, he wanted to give 40 years back to Christ for Christian ministry. And so my grandparents then alongside, they pulled my dad in and asked him to come along and create divine truths for people to grow in their walk with Christ.
And they just started it from scratch. Just said, here's a little corner mall or corner of the mall or whatever, and we're gonna throw some books in here and hope people come and buy them. I mean,
yes. So we started.
Did you know them?
Yeah. So we started off on. We've always been on 84th Street. We started off on a small little bay, and we laughed that in the beginning stages, the back storage room was bigger than the front room. We had cards, and get this is how long ago it was, records and cassettes.
Oh yeah.
And our big wall of Bibles was the primary focus, but it has grown amazingly with the grace of God, with our loyal customers and people who keep coming in.
Do you have much music now?
We do have music. It has sadly shrunken a little bit because of the technology that a lot of people are streaming, but we still have a music section.
Yeah, I mean, there's some old school people like me who like I'll admit it, a CD now and then or whatever.
Yes.
I do have those. My car doesn't have it anymore, but they're still around the house.
Yes, and we sell a lot of audio Bibles, so Bibles on CDs for people who still want to listen to the Bible on CD.
Well, that's awesome. In their cars or at home or whatever, huh?
Yes.
No records probably.
No records. However, we still can order special records for those people that like to get their vinyl.
Wow, okay, well, that's cool. And that's a good point you bring up. I'm glad you say that because people in this day and age are so used to shopping online. Tell us about the service you provide for someone who might come in and maybe they don't know what they're looking for, or maybe they do know what they're looking for. And what's the benefit of having you order it for them versus some online situation?
So first of all, supporting local helps the local community, and it helps with taxes and keeps things lower. But for us, it's very unique because you keep our store open, which is a business, but it's a ministry within a business. By you keeping the doors open, we have people who've come in that have no idea why they're there. One quick story, we had a gentleman, he goes, I'm gonna tell you something a little strange. He goes, I don't really wanna admit this, but it's like my car drove me here.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's not the first time we've heard that.
His car drove him there. So
Yes.
he was being led to your location, your store.
So he walked in. We are a family-owned business. We're all family that work there. He spoke with my brother. He goes, I don't really know why I'm here. And so as my brother got to speak with him and he shared his story, he found in the end the reason why he was there is he needed to get a Bible. He was raised in a godly home. He had strayed away as he had grown up and moved out of the house, but he knew that God was tugging at his heart and leading him back to his relationship with God.
Wow, and his car drove him there. He got the inspiration and he saw the bricks and mortar. I mean, that would not have happened if he's just driving past the gas station.
And there's many stories that I could share, but sometimes we have people come in. They have a life-threatening event where they are saying, they don't go to church, but they're seeking prayer, so we will pray with them. But by shopping local allows us to keep our doors open for people who don't necessarily have a church or know of a church that they can go to, that they feel it's a safe place and a godly place to find out where they should go.
Well, that's again the kind of the gateway, if you will, to people coming back into the faith, perhaps. And again, that comes from having a sign and a store and a storefront and all that. I mean, and now your present one is very visible, and Very good. When I first went in there, I was astonished at the size of it. I'm thinking I'm just a little hole in the wall here, you know, but no. It's I mean, has it always been that big?
No, we have grown. So in our old location, we were one little center bay, and it was an L-shaped facility. We kept year by year, we kept taking over each bay where we almost had the entire L shape.
Okay.
However, the building was old and dilapidated. We thought about buying it, but my grandfather prayed about it and said it wasn't the greatest thing to do. So up the street, there was an old grocery store that was cut in half, and the half portion came available. And so the Lord opened up the door for us to move there, which broadened our horizon because we were on the corner, so more people saw us.
Great location.
And then CVS Pharmacy wanted the corner, and so they achieved the corner, but it was by God that God worked it all out because the landlord was in Florida, and he didn't really care. We had a long-term lease, and CVS wanted us to move, and we're like, nope, we're going to stay here. And God orchestrated the whole thing where we were able to stay in that corner. They tore down the half of the building, built our store where we're at right now, 84th and Harrison, and then CVS went. And so it's a beautiful.
What does it mean? I mean,
they built theirs on the corner where we were, the CVS Pharmacy
Gotcha.
location, and we're right next to CVS.
Okay.
And it is a big, beautiful building that my grandfather always tagged it. It's the Miracle on 84th Street.
Miracle on 84th Street. I love it.
Yes.
It's a great movie, great concept to have it. Well, you know you have God in your corner when you can take on CVS. Is it
CVS,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, take them on it and win, basically.
Yes.
But that location, I saw, I was on the internet actually, a meme or whatever that said, buy, I'll leave the name out here, buy local because XYZ online giant doesn't support your local Little League.
Right, yes.
I thought that was pretty profound.
Yes, locally is good. The other thing too, like you were asking before, what are the benefits with coming into the store? Say you're looking for a book, you're like, okay, we have a lot of times people are like, you know, I'm having difficulties in my marriage. Do you have a marriage section? Which we do. Or a topic a lot is, which the segue is into yours, I have a family member who died, or a certain thing that, you know, are there books for that? We have a whole grief section. We have gifts to give that are for grieving. We have books for women. We have Bible study books. We have kids books. So sometimes they're coming in and they're like, I'm looking for this. Do you know what I'm looking for? You're not going to have a personal shopper that can go, I mean, most people don't. Maybe a few people might have a personal shopper. But most people don't have a personal shopper. When you come in the store, it's not clicking on a link looking at one thing. There's a whole section of things. And sometimes, you know, you might have an idea of, oh, I'm looking for this gift. But when you come in and see our big gift selection, you're like, you know what? I thought I was coming in for this, but then I see you have all this. And another thing that's a personal touch that we have is if you buy a Bible with us, we do free engraving for the first line on your Bible. So if you want a name, it makes it very personal to have your name imprinted on the Bible, a leather-like Bible. We also have a whole section that has engravable items if you want to do a unique item that it's engraved same day.
That's special because, I mean, again, if I'm buying online or whatever, I suppose I can buy anything and find anything online, but that's an extra hassle. And what I love is the personal nature that, I mean, no big box store will pray with their customers, and no big box store who's manned by a 17-year-old part-time person is going to say, you know, is going to receive the question, I don't know why I'm here, very well. But you have that local presence. It all comes back to a ministry mindset, doesn't it? Tell us a little bit about that again. I mean, you already have, but I mean, are there any other examples of where you've ministered, if you will, to your customers?
Yeah, so for instance, we had another lady that's been a long-time customer for years. Her daughter was going through some hard times, and my dad prayed with her. I will say it was the teenage angst years that sometimes can come, and just pray with her. And then my dad spoke with the daughter, because sometimes it's a situation, you know, it's like, oh, mom or dad will say this, but someone else, and it was a trusted, you know, figure, because the girl had been coming in since she was a little girl to now being a teenager. And then full circle, now she's a mother, and she had gotten sick and was having a hard pregnancy, and things were not going well. And so the mother called and said, hey, can you pray with us? And the mother and baby are doing fine. So those stories where prayer really does matter, and it is that family connection of that. We're not there just to sell you something.
Right,
it's
right.
a life journey.
Well, it's a ministry. You're there for a reason. You're there for a purpose, and God's purpose. And you fought CVS and won.
Well, my grandparents always said they left a legacy of faith, family, and love, because those are very important things. You have to have the godlike characteristics, but you have to have that body of Christ, and the Bible says if two or more are gathered. So
right,
it's the
right.
connection of community, but you have to have the love of Christ. God calls us to love everyone no matter
right.
what they're like or
and
what they're going through.
You are providing that to all levels of people, to maybe the very sophisticated theological person, and also to the person who's lost and they don't know why they're there.
Yes.
But they knew why they were there after they left, didn't they?
Yes.
Well, that summarizes it about as well as I possibly could. The Divine Truth Christian Store, 84th and Harrison. Jennifer Ginn, thank you for being here. And
Thanks
this
for
is a
having me.
wonderful place to find some respite, to find some answers, to find some peace. And I hope that you can check it out. Jennifer, thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul.
Do you need a respite from the chaos in your life? Do you need a safe haven? Do you need a place to go to walk more humbly with your Lord? Well, if so, stay put, because this section of the episode of Behind the Words TV is for you. I'm Paul Madsen, host of the program and also author of Men, Grieve, Too. And I'm very excited today because I am here with Jennifer Ginn and Dar Geiger. And we're going to tell you exactly why we're here and what's going on. First, we'll start with Jennifer. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Hey, great to see you again. And tell us more about the Divine Truth Christian Store.
Well, we are a local store, and we have books, Bibles, gifts, things for kids, adults. We have engravable items. We're just your local Christian store.
Local Christian store, and more than just books, there's gifts as well, correct?
Yes.
Well, I've been to your store. It's beautiful. It's wonderfully located, very visible. And what I was struck by when I went in was I loved how easy it was to find a category. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, if I'm grieving, or if I'm looking for marital issues, or if I'm looking for, whatever kind of situation, it's really easy to find it. But more than that, there's the personal touch. Tell us about that.
Well, when you come into our store, if you know what you're looking for, people go right to it. Or if you have a question, say you're looking for a book, like you just said, okay, I'm looking for books on marriage. We can take you and show you, and you're like, okay, well, I have a certain grief issue that I'm dealing with a friend. We can take you, we have book ideas or Bible study. There's a section. Sometimes people come in and say, I have a person that's going through this, and this. Can you help me find a book for them? And we're happy to do that.
Well, you're almost like a ministry in that point, right?
Yes, we are.
Tell us more about that. I mean, how you minister to people, and if you will.
Yes, so my grandparents that started the store with my dad, who helped start the store, they wanted it to be a place for people to grow in their faith or come to faith. And so we pray with customers. If you have a need or something that you're struggling with that maybe you don't have a church or you feel comfortable talking to someone else, we've had people come in and say, hey, can you pray with me? And we're happy to do that.
Well, you brought up a really great idea, and I'm sure Dar agrees with this thought as well. I mean, some people aren't lined up with a church, and some people have found your store. Tell us about that.
Well, we have a neat situation where a person said, I don't know why I'm here. They came in, it was like my car was pulling me to your location. My brother spoke with them, and they were there to get a Bible. They were raised in a church when they were a young child, but now that they were adult, they kind of had walked away, but they bought a Bible and got their life started back on their journey in faith.
Yeah, well, and I guess what struck me in that conversation is a large church, or any kind of, I mean, if someone's unchurched,
Right.
the idea of finding a church and going to the church and joining a church, it's often intimidating. I don't want to be part of organized religion or whatever their situation. And I guess I view your store as a gateway, if you will,
Yes.
to them finding their and furthering their relationship with God.
Yes.
You see that happening?
Oh yeah, definitely. We have some people that will come in, hey, I'm new to the area, what are good local churches? And we have pastors that are networked in with us that we know of, oh hey, try this church out or try this church out.
Wonderful.
And that's a way that we are a ministry within our business, but we also network with churches.
Well, again, back to the gateway thing. And yes, well, and tell us about some of the local kinds of events that you do that maybe minister to people, kinds of ways you get people like us out in the world.
So we work with local authors that have books that they would like to put on consignment in our store and do local book signing events.
Such a local author like you, Dar. What's the name of your book?
Reignite Your Joy, Let God Lead Your Dance Through Life.
Wonderful. Reignite Your Joy, Let God Lead Your Dance Through Life. And tell us what your mission statement and your purpose is with that book.
Well, you know what? I've been called literally by God to be His messenger of joy. And so I want to help people learn how to navigate through trials and still have that joy that God gives us. And it's all based on my story of recovery from addictions, the loss of 2 soulmates, breast cancer, and how I became that messenger of joy.
Well, that's a powerful story, which is why I have you on the show and why I'm doing other things with you, which we'll talk about in a minute. But, what made you want to write a book about all this?
I didn't know I was going to write a book, but it was in 2020. And a situation occurred in my business, my nutrition business, where I had a lot more time. And I was working with a coach to decide what else I can do for God's glory. She told me that I had a great story, and we decided that we were going to write my book, write my story. And I got God's approval on it. I prayed about it, and He said, this is going to help a lot of people, and it's going to give me glory. It will be our book. And so I found a wonderful publisher who helped me put it all together, and it was released in February of 2021.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you've been on a show with me in the past, but I'm glad you're telling the story because it bears repeating is what I'm trying to say. Tell me, I mean, you see a lot of titles and a lot of books in the store. Don't you just love Dar's title?
I do.
Yeah, tell us how you got to that title. How did that boil down to you?
Went through many prayer and titles in my head and running it across my publisher because I love to dance. It gives me joy, and there's lots of things that give me joy. My relationship with Christ is the number one. And so through a lot of praying and practicing different kinds of titles, and then my publisher looking up to see if it was already a book title, I just felt like, you know what, this is all that we've been going through.
Oh, yeah.
We all need to get some joy reignited. So
yes.
My story really does tell that story on how I went through trials and learned how to navigate through my relationship with Christ to still experience joy and be a joy giver like He is.
Wonderful. Well, Jennifer, that's pretty indicative of the kind of content that you have in your store, the kind of thing that gives your customers joy and peace and all that kind of thing. Tell us about how you have events that support people like Dar and maybe myself.
Yes. So with our local authors that have been approved, they have the opportunity to do a book signing, which is a special event. It's typically done on Saturdays because we found that's the best day for customers. And they will have a table right in when you walk in through our front doors. Dar and Paul will be right there, center right when you walk in. And it's a way to connect our community with local authors who have amazing stories that God has given them to share, and it's just an opportunity, that great local one-on-one that you can't get online.
Right. Well, that's the bottom line, is you can't get that kind of thing online. It just, it's a relationship thing. And Dar, you've done a signing over at Divine Truth before, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, and they were wonderful. They were so accommodating, and we're right there with people coming in and leaving, and so it was very an easy day of book signing. It was fun, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you and I are very excited about an upcoming one here, and we got Dar's book, Reignite Your Joy. And then another guy's book here, Paul David Madsen, Men Grieve Too. And that's coming up, as you can see, on Saturday, September the 10th at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're going to be there. I get the chance to talk about my book as well.
So Paul, you know, in our bookstore, we have lots of books on grieving. We have a big section on grief books. There's a lot that are written specifically towards women. Not very many. I don't actually know if there's one specifically addressed towards men. What gave you the thought process to say, you know what, I'm going to take my story, I'm going to use the tools, I'm going to do something that may be tough for me? How did you come with writing your book, Men Grieve Too?
I had two losses. I lost my 32-year-old daughter to death, and then 9 months later I lost my wife of 40 years to death. And so I was a great candidate for grief groups, and I went to the grief support groups. And what I noticed, ladies, at those groups was an absence of men. Literally, I mean, there were 20 women in the one group and 5 guys. There were 40 women in a different group and about 6 or 7 guys. And you know, I can summarize it here. Men may feel that culture limits the way they should grieve the death of their loved ones. Men Grieve Too addresses that issue in a hands-on way, offering practical tools to help them as they experience the trauma of loss. And the bottom line is that, you know, I think men have been conditioned a little bit differently and I just thought that there's a way to address them as they go through the grief. And it's not, you know, what I've been finding, I released it in May, is that women buy the book too, and they give it to men. Because, you know, a lot of men, I'm not going to buy a book. You know, I wouldn't buy that book, wouldn't buy any book. You know, I'm not going to read. And whereas a woman, my brother just lost his wife, and they buy the book and give it to them. So I am thrilled to be able to talk about that in person with anybody who's going through any kind of transition. Dar is going to be thrilled to talk about getting more joy in your life. And Jennifer, when is this event?
It is September 10th. It is going to be from 11 to 3, and we just want you to come out, speak with Dar and speak with Paul. They very personable people and have a great story to tell. And we are just so thrilled that we have you
We're
guys
thrilled
coming.
to have the opportunity to be there. Where is the store location?
The store is 84th and Harrison, right next to the CVS pharmacy.
Well, there you have it. We're all going to be out in Bells on the Saturday, September 10th, and we hope you can be part of it, experience the great ministry of Divine Truth Christian Store, experience Reignite Your Hope, or Joy rather, with Dar, and Men Grieve Too as well with myself. So come on out for the event. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, ladies, and we'll see you on the 10th.